Hey, what's up? It's Mike. Welcome back to Dented Cans. Another awesome episode today. My buddy, hysterical comic Doug Smith, joins me to talk about a guided MDMA therapy session that he did. And we walked through the entire process and some of the amazing revelations and realizations that he had, and I was honored to be able to sit and chat with him. This stems off of a conversation I had on his podcast called Jehova Boy, which you can hear wherever you get your podcasts. You should check it out. Follow him at @WhoDougSmith on socials. And of course, as always, we're not giving medical advice. This is all just purely, for education and entertainment, and do your own research and speak to physicians and all that stuff before you embark on any type of a mental health journey of your own. So if you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe, rate, review, share. Goes a long way. You can go to patreon.com/Mike Fenoya for the full video, the full no interruptions, no ads, just you and the interview. Patreon.com/Mike Fenoya. Also, huge shout out, as always, and a big thanks to Sunset Lake CBD, our sponsor. I love Sunset Lake CBD sleep gummies. They help me sleep quite a bit. They're mixed with a nice melatonin blend. You could get it in the tincture form as well. I particularly love the salve that they make. It has an arnica in it, and I rub it on my old bones because I'm fat, and they're taking a beating. They have a dog CBD that Charlie loves. There's so many great products. You can go to sunsetlakecbd.com and check it all out. And if you use promo code DENTED, you will get 20% off. That's DENTED for 20% off at sunsetlakecbd.com. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Doug, for joining. And we will see you soon. Peace. All right. Hi, Doug.
What's up, buddy? Good to see you.
I like your hair.
You do like it.
No. You don't need to do that.
I don't need to do this. I'm hopefully 10 years ahead of the game. It's a trial run for when I eventually do need to do it. But I realize this is cultural appropriation at its finest.
It really is. Cultural, follicular appropriation. Have you been getting dirty looks from other...
From actual bald guys? Not yet. Not yet. And you didn't give me a dirty look when I came in here, but I could just sense... I could sense the vibe of what did you do that for?
Yeah, well, that was going to be the first question, but
yeah.
It's not... It's almost like I looked at your head, and I will continue to, because I'm easily distracted, but also it's like, oh, that's what it would look like. That's what I think. I don't have the option anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't miss hair. I just miss having options.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can now grow a mohawk.
Yeah.
You can grow a perm. You could do fucking anything you want.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here.
This is going to upset you even more. But I'm going to go there. So I did start losing my hair. I want to say 8 years ago. I noticed quite a bit coming out in the shower. Okay. The shower drain would look like there was a dead baby squirrel in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's how you first know.
Yeah, totally.
It's not, you don't notice it in your day-to-day life. It's the shower where all hell breaks loose.
Yeah.
So I started taking something called finasteride. You know about this? It's a.
Do you think I know about it because I'm bald? Or because it sounds like my last name if it was
do I know it? I own stock in finasteride.
It's Mike Finasteride. I don't know what it is. Is it like a like a Propecia kind of thing, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think it's generic Propecia.
Yeah.
So I started taking that, and then I stopped because my hair stopped falling out. But I know it's one of these things you have to continue doing.
Yeah.
And then my wife and I were both on Accutane. Do you know about Accutane?
That's skin?
Yes.
And that makes your hair fall out?
It can do all kinds of things, man. It can make you suicidal.
Oh, geez.
It can make your hair fall out. It can do all sorts of, it's such an extreme, a concentrated dose of vitamin A, I think it is, that apparently can just wreak havoc on your body in other ways. So the back of every tab women cannot get pregnant on Accutane. They can, but they cannot give birth on Accutane. So there is like a cartoonish image of a conehead baby on the back of every tab with like a no smoking, like don't fucking
You'll have a conehead
birth
baby?
a conehead baby. Yes.
Wow.
So even as a man, to have to punch out a pill out of a tab every single day and see this conehead baby is horrifying.
Because you don't want to be the father of a conehead baby.
No.
So wait, like, so you can take it while pregnant, but there's something about the passage of the baby out of the hole that will give it a conehead.
So. Yeah, Accutane just gives you a real tight pussy.
Tight puss, but beautiful skin.
Yes.
There are no pimples on that puss.
No, none at all.
Wow. So did that mess with
So
your...
that brought that kicked it off all over again. So then I started. So my wife and I both, because her hair started falling out too.
Oh my God.
Which is much less socially acceptable when you're a woman, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So then there was this other sort of topical stuff we started using, which is like it's like in a dropper that I rub that on every night. And now this is what's going to make you angry. Not only do I feel like my hair has like stopped falling out, but it started growing back to the point that my hairline is a fucking disaster. Like I have hair, like I just shaved it and I used a razor around here, but I have hair that's starting to grow down. Like I'll start looking like Teen Wolf.
You're going to start looking like the son on the Munsters.
Well, I've already that was my first nickname in school.
Was it
Eddie Munster because of my widow's peak, and I used to shave my widow's peak.
You did,
off,
dude. Oh my God, we have so much in common.
Terrible when that starts going back in.
Oh my God, we have a lot in common.
But my widow's peak was very pronounced when I was a kid. But yes, now I have like it's coming in at all kinds of weird angles down.
So you have more hair than you used to.
Than I want to in places that I don't want it.
I'm sorry for your troubles. I have hair only where I don't want it, and not where I want it.
Yeah,
I don't have. Yeah, so I don't know how that feels.
Do you have a hairy ass?
Oh my God!
I got a real hairy ass.
It's awful.
It's
in
brutal,
fact,
yeah.
I had such problems with my hairy ass that I had a pylonidal cyst. Have you ever heard of this?
No, is that from an ingrown hair?
An ingrown hair. An infected hair follicle at the bottom of my tailbone, right where your ass crack meets your tailbone.
I have heard about this.
Dude, it's like a pussy ball of pain. And you pick at it and you're not supposed to and whatever. This is just when I met my then girlfriend, now wife. Okay? And I had this thing, and I had to go get it lanced. They cut it open. They drain it. They found a hair, like a twisted up hair, like this big in it. Of course, they showed me, and I'm like, fantastic. Like, thank you. What am I going to do with this?
Make a necklace.
Make a necklace. Make an anklet. And they put a drain in it, and you have to like have a loved one like take the gauze out, put new gauze in, let the pus drain out. So like my first date with my wife, I had like a tail. I had like a pus drain on the top of my ass crack, and I'm like, she's never gonna like. Thank God we didn't I didn't have to take my pants off that first date because I'm glad I didn't get there because I didn't want to have to be like, no, I don't think we know each other that well, or like, do I be honest and be like, I have a pus drain coming out of my tailbone, But I ended up getting another one, and while we were together. And she drained it, and she did all the cleaning. She likes that stuff. She's one of those nurses that like watches the pimple popper.
Yeah.
So she gets off on that shit. I hate it.
Well, you're in luck. I mean, I was gonna say like that's unfortunate that they insist that a loved one does that.
No, well,
like, why are they?
I love that they said a loved one.
They should make people that do like picking up trash on the side of the highway.
Imagine that.
They should be the pus drainers.
Did you get like an armed robbery? Like you get partnered up with someone at like the local. You have to go to like Newburgh to get your pus drained every day. Yeah, hairy ass is bad. But so wait, are you Italian?
No, I'm not, and I'm not a very hairy person. Otherwise,
so you just have ass and
I can't even grow a full beard.
You can't.
Ass and head.
Ass and head. Wow, dude. Yeah. No shoulders and back and
no.
You have little patches.
I have a tiny bit of chest hair on one tit. Just my right tit has a little patch of hair. That's it.
Do you remember that thing Woolly Willy when we were kids? That was like the magnet.
Yeah.
That's like you. Like you were like it's all just everywhere.
Unibrow too. My mom
horrible unibrow.
Used to take me when I was like 12 years old to get electrolysis on my unibrow.
Damn.
which is still to this day some of the worst pain I've ever experienced.
Is that like the laser
It's a
zap?
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
It's, like
when you were 12.
Cold sweat down your spine. Yeah.
Have you ever passed out or like fainted due to pain or anxiety leading up to something that might cause pain? Because
no.
Okay.
I haven't.
I feel like that I have.
But that's probably the closest I ever came.
Really?
I used to dread going to these appointments. Yeah.
You went a lot.
Yeah. And then she eventually zapped it all. Now it still comes back here and there. I tweeze it.
Damn, dude.
But yeah.
When I'm shaving my head, I'll do a quick yoink like with the razor
right.
just to try to maintain it. But I have a horror. Dude, if I didn't maintain the hair on my body, I have a joke in my special about it. Like I look like a high school mascot at halftime, like with his head off. Like I'm just like covered in like a fuzz. I just have like a felt everywhere. It's horrible, dude. And I have to maintain it. I have a bit in my special about it where it's like every guy who shaves his head, like you get to the neck and you're like, do I keep going?
Right.
Like what guy am I going to be?
Yeah.
Because no one goes bald before, well, not no one, me. Before you're like married or you don't have to worry about it anymore, you know?
Sure.
You want to be in presentable fashion.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take your shirt off at like 26 and some girls will be like, what the fuck happened to you?
Yeah.
So I've been hairy for a long time. Now I have them like, I have outside of my nose.
Oh, wow.
Hairs.
Yeah.
And ears. I have to maintain that shit.
Yep.
Yeah, you get in the lobe, like lobe
yeah, and
fuzz.
I'll start to get mad at my wife. I mean, that's like, what the hell do you have a wife for if she's not maintaining your stray, ear scruff?
You have a phenomenal mustache, though, and you always have. And I feel weird. I can grow a killer mustache, but I can't. I don't have the structure to pull off. I look like some weird, I don't know, Halloween gay cop or something. Like it's not good. But yours is great, and you even have the little Zappa patch too.
Yeah. I feel like I got to balance it out a little bit. But I've had this for Jesus, man. Like I think it's been like 12 years now, to the point where I think I'm committed to it. I don't think I can get rid of it now. Yeah, my son would be horrified. He hates this. So if I was to shave my mustache, I would be unrecognizable.
Why did you shave your head?
I just got tired of getting shitty haircuts, and I had a guy that I liked, but it would always be a little bit off, and I would always be trying to like fix it up myself, and I hate the process of going to the barber, and I just got tired of it, man. Yeah. And I shaved my own head when I was in my early 20s, and I just thought, fuck it, give it a shot again. And I don't know, my wife likes it for some reason.
Dude, it looks great. You got a good head.
Thanks, man.
Some people don't have a head for shaving.
I was given enough tummy time as a kid. I know that.
I love it. Tummy time.
One of my buddies, I love the guy. I just thought it was because he was Polish, but now I know it's because he wasn't given enough tummy time. The back of his head just looks like his mom just fucking ran into the end zone and spiked him. It's just completely flat. No, he has in the past. He shaved it one time, and I was like, dude, you can't.
Yeah. He looks like KGB. That's rough, dude. I know. The first time you shave your head, for those of you out there thinking about it, you get a stomach ache. When you're halfway through, you're like, fucking. It's like unwrapping like a gauze.
Right.
And it's like, how bad is the scar? You know what I mean? Like, dude, it's so funny. I was one time, did you ever like make a horrible mistake shaving and then you had to like do a whole. Like, were you ever trimming your mustache and then you had to, it's the worst.
Entirely, yeah.
I was getting ready for a wedding. I was the best man in a wedding, and I was drinking all day, and I had to go in and, like, shower and shave and get ready. And I had one rogue, like, runaway, like, eyebrow hair, and I took my nose hair trimmer thing, and I went to, like, trim the hair, and I just wasted, like rushing. I cut like a Vanilla Ice line. Like I cut like 2 big gashes.
Yeah. And
it just looked horrible. And then I tried to fix it and made it way worse. So my mother had to come over and like draw in the rest of my eyebrow. I had to give like a speech and stuff and like
doing your best Uncle Leo impression.
Dude, I'm like, yeah, what? I'm fine. But all my friends knew about it, so they were breaking but they were going like, let us brow our heads in peace and shit like at the church. And I was so nervous that I had just like eyebrow dripping down. I was so embarrassed, dude. And I bombed the speech because I was terrified that I was just like leaking. Like people would be like, the fuck, this guy's head's melting.
You had a Giuliani leak running into your eyes.
Yeah, right. Like, I've known Justin for my whole life, and I'm just getting But dude, yeah, it looks great. I love it. I didn't know if it had something to do with your trip to Costa Rica.
Well, that too, because I just got back from Costa Rica. Not my first time, my third time going.
Oh, no shit.
You've been?
No, dude. I want to go bad.
It's beautiful, but the heat and the humidity is brutal, and I'm a total bitch in the heat, man.
Yeah, I'm a
so
wuss.
like I kind of did it in preparation for that.
Okay.
Let me do whatever I can.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. So this is the first time with the family, or you brought them?
Second time with the family. So my wife and I went there for a honeymoon in 2013.
Oh, cool.
And then we went back with our son last year. Loved it. I have a hard time like with international travel returning to the same place because it's there's the world to see. So it's like, what the fuck you doing? Go back at the same spot. But it checked all the boxes.
Costa Rica's paradise, from what I've heard. I know a lot of deadheads that are living there now because they're just like, fuck America, I'm going to Costa Rica.
Right.
And I'm like, sweet, like get it ready.
Yeah.
You know?
Get it ready, yeah.
Or do you Airbnb or do you do hotels and shit?
So we did, I hate to use this term, but it's the term used by the place that we stayed. You've heard the term glamping before?
Yeah, I do the opposite.
I hate to say glamping.
What's slum camp? I slamp.
Slamp.
Yeah, I have a sleeping bag and a tarp.
Yeah,
and that's it. So you went like treehouse with like champagne.
This place
Fantastic.
it's probably the nicest place we've ever stayed, but it's like these big ornate bamboo structures with a heavy duty tent over it. It looks like something out of like a Ralph Lauren home interiors catalog. It's like
yeah.
Beautiful oriental rugs, and there's still electricity, running water, full kitchen, but it's just there's no walls. You're in the fucking jungle.
Wow.
And it's amazing. There's howler monkeys, hooting and hollering overhead. There's tree frogs and
Damn, dude.
Giant 4-inch long grasshoppers all over the place. It's like a insect and reptile safari just surrounding your tent.
I think about the sounds at night.
Yeah,
it's got to be incredible.
It's almost deafening.
That's so neat, dude.
And there were howler monkey wars every morning at like 5 a.m. to the point that it was infuriating.
You're like, shut up.
Screaming at each other. Yeah. Like the first night, it's like, wow, how cool is this? But then the second or third night, you're like, shut the fuck up. And one morning.
Share the goddamn banana. Enough.
Do you have any
Plenty to go
whispering
around.
monkeys, man? Talk about the hollering.
Use your inside voice outside. And one morning when we woke up, we were walking out of breakfast, and there was monkey shit scattered all over the trail. So they were literally, like you hear about monkeys throwing poop
shit
at each other. I always thought they don't really do that.
They do.
Dude, it was everywhere. Dude.
Wow.
They were just pelting each other with shit.
That's
It was
insane.
all over the place.
And you're just living in a beautiful treehouse.
Yeah, yeah,
In monkey war.
totally.
I kind of love your son must have loved it.
He did, yeah. I mean, it's.
I mean, how do you
paradise for
not
him.
as a kid?
He's never met a creature that he didn't love, to the point that, like, about the lanternfly crisis. Obviously, we're told to kill lanternflies on sight.
Yeah.
He is harboring lanternflies.
Is he really?
He collects them and puts them in a terrarium at
my
home.
God.
They all die because he
Yeah.
doesn't know what to feed them. But
Yeah.
he thinks he's doing them a favor.
Aw.
And he's vehemently opposed to any sort of lanternfly.
This is the
abuse.
second story I've heard about your son, and I want to be best friends with him.
Yeah,
He's
a
found
metalhead who rescues
he found
lanternflies.
metal on his own,
Yeah.
and now he's like harboring animals that should be killed. I love this kid.
Yeah,
That's
so
fantastic.
he was like catching lizards left and right in Costa Rica, and it's paradise for him. But yes,
So
I do hate
cool.
the term glamping. I tried to make my own term catch on. I was like, we should call it open air accommodations. And
I like
my wife
it.
was like, oh, that just sounds like you're homeless. You're sleeping on a park bench. Open air accommodations.
Open air accommodations. Yeah, the sky is my
There's
ceiling.
nothing. Yeah.
You could get poetic with that shit for sure. Glamping to me just kind of was like adulting. It's just one of those words where it's like, now I camped going to follow bands, and we're literally sleeping like at a rest area in like West Virginia and some shit. That's totally not glamping.
Yeah.
It's like 4 dudes like trying to sleep off acid in like a tent, and it's just like a fart hot box, opposite of glamping. But when I hear glamping, it's like, it sounds nice.
Yeah.
It sounds beautiful, and I'd like to do it. I'm fascinated by these tree houses that are like everywhere now.
Right.
That you can literally like go stay at like a 4-star tree house.
Yeah,
That's dope.
it is.
I want to go to
Awesome.
I want to go to Costa Rica real bad. We're going to Italy, Turkey, and Greece next summer for like
Awesome.
first time I've ever been over there. I want to see old world.
Mm-hmm.
Know what I mean?
Sure.
It's weird that like
Absolutely.
this is the oldest. Like America,
Yeah.
like the East is the oldest
Yeah.
of like the colonized whatever the fuck.
Yeah. The newest country there is the oldest we know.
Oldest we know.
Yeah.
Well, I was on your podcast, Jehova Boy, which I love. Thank you for having me. And
Of course.
I feel like we scratched the surface on an important. Our conversation went a bunch of different ways, but we talked a little bit about psychedelics, and I wanted to talk with you about our respective guided, unconventional therapies
Mhm.
that maybe we've done. And I think they're getting more and more like, in the common vernacular and stuff, but I'm always happy to talk to friends about the experiences they had and like why they got into it, how it went like through the process, and like what you came out with, and did it help with any of your dents or anything that you're kind of, went in trying to work on.
Sure.
So let's dive right in. I want to hear
do
about
it.
this. You did MDMA, right?
Yes, I did. So that was like, I had done mushrooms previously, but in a more recreational sort of way.
Yes,
My
yes.
first time doing mushrooms was with a bunch of buddies in Prospect Park and like, summer day. And it was like, I instantly recognized that it was beneficial because I'm a total germaphobe. And I remember like lying in the dirt in the park,
Yes, totally,
like
dude.
picking up fistfuls of dirt and just like drizzling it on myself, just feeling so one with the earth.
Right,
And I was like,
right.
oh, this is exactly what I need. I went from like Howard Hughes to just like a fucking earth creature.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I instantly could recognize the benefits of it, but then I got carried away with it, got cocky with it, started doing mushrooms at like bars while drinking, had a couple of real bad trips. But I could instantly recognize the benefits of it in terms of acceptance of everything. And then so the MDMA thing came about because my wife, as you know, is a therapist.
Yes.
She had read about MDMA therapy, being used by soldiers, other people, victims of trauma or PTSD, having tremendous benefits. And she knew that I had struggled with depression and anxiety. So she was the one that first brought it up to me. She did it before I did, with a guide, and had tremendous things to say about it. I had done it once before, again, recreationally, with a buddy when I first moved here, I was living in the East Village. He got a hold of some, and I didn't even leave the house. We just hung out in the apartment watching movies. But
Why would you have to go anywhere?
Yeah. Everything in front
The
of you
universe
was
comes
wonderful.
to you. Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah. Just an appreciation for absolutely everything. No negativity whatsoever.
None.
And so that was, again, like a mental note of like, okay, this is nothing to be afraid of. This is
Right.
just pure joy and love. But, the idea of really not doing it recreationally, but doing it in a much more mindful, immersive way was something that I hadn't done, that I knew that was helpful to people. So she was referred to this guy who I think her guide had recommended. And again, this is not a doctor. This is not a psychologist.
Underground.
Yeah.
It's all underground.
Yeah.
And there are levels of underground
Uh-huh.
that I have found out, that there are people who are kind of like they call them like kind of the gringo shaman, who's like, they take over the WeWork in Williamsburg and
Yeah.
get a hold of some ayahuasca. And then there are people who maybe have a background in medicine or a background in therapy, and they believe in the psychedelic power of healing and stuff. So they kind of have maybe put their careers on hold to go do this, but in a safe and, observed setting. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
So this guy, it was like, and it can, like, if I hadn't already been used to buying weed off people through Signal and various other decoded messaging apps, I probably would have been kind of sketched out by the whole process.
Yeah.
But I was, it was something I was familiar with. So I had to like contact this guy on Signal and just use his initial and not specifically say MDMA, but just be like, I'm interested in a journey. And, you know, it's all this kind of coded talk.
Yeah, yeah.
And he got back to me, and we orchestrated like a time and place to meet up. And yeah, again, like if I had not dabbled in this world before, it sounds like, you know, you're marching off to get whacked in some fucking alley in Williamsburg somewhere.
It's like you're texting with like a sales associate at REI. You're like, I want to go on an exploration. You're like, I need the proper tools in order to, you know, achieve my, you know, peak and everything. It sounds like you're going on like a, you know, out with a Sherpa or something.
Right,
Yeah.
totally.
So how was that? Was it like, was the communication part like?
It was good. He definitely like put me at ease and said all the right things, and like he kind of gave me a little bit of a backstory of his foray into this world and people that he had worked with and his first guide, and like you know, he knew how to say all the right things to kind of put me at ease.
Yeah.
And so and I needed it too, man. This was he gave me my session notes. I want to just tell you the exact date that I did it. So September 8th of 2020. So this is about what, 6 months into the pandemic.
Yes.
And I was going through we all were, but I was not only had felt like I had lost my identity as a comic because we weren't really doing shows, but my son had just started kindergarten, and I went from being, you know, full-time stay-at-home dad mode to now he's in school. I don't know what to do with myself. So I felt like my identity had been kind of stripped of me in two different huge aspects of my life.
And just out of curiosity, how old were you in this? What, like late 30s? Were you 40 yet?
I'm 40 now. So this was,
okay.
37.
So you're also approaching 40.
Yeah.
Which,
yes,
that's big.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah,
go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to,
No, all good.
Yeah.
Yes, for several years approaching 40, it's a very daunting.
It sure
number,
is.
for sure.
Yeah. And then the world goes, why don't you just sit and think about it for 2 years?
Yeah.
Don't distract yourself. Just sit and think about how you're.
Dude, it was 40 was such a dark cloud looming overhead that I was already, so my birthday's in January. I remember March of last year, somebody asking me how old I was, and I was like, I'm going to be 40 in January. And they're like, in January? Why are you telling people it like that?
When you were 33, you're like, I'm going to be 40 in 6 years and 8 months. You're counting down.
What are you doing, man?
Damn,
They're like,
dude.
embrace this time that you have, you know.
Yeah.
Claim that you're still in your 30s. So, yeah, I was in a pretty lost, low place at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was, you know, the timing of it was perfect. So I meet up with this guy. He gives me an address in Williamsburg, and I ring his buzzer. He comes down to greet me, and there's this girl with him when he comes down, and they had clearly just fucked. Like, they were like giving each other eyes, and she was like clinging to him, and he was like had his hand on the small of her back, and like before he even acknowledged me, he like leaned in and like tenderly kissed her, and I was like, what the fuck did I just walk in on, you know?
Yeah.
And then like I didn't realize at first that this was his girlfriend. I thought like, is this how this goes? You know?
The next person that comes in sees you. He's got the hand on the small of your back, tenderly kissing you.
Yeah, I was like, hey, whatever works.
Like, fuck, man. All right. Whatever works.
Total enlightenment and inner peace.
No,
so
inner peace.
So he parts ways with her, and
now it's just you and him.
Now it's just me and him. But there was something kind of like, there was something kind of cool about it because it was so present in a way. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
This is my woman. This is what I'm dealing with right in front of me. Yes, you are welcome here, but she is my top. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was a presence that I could sense from him where it was kind of reassuring in a way.
I get it.
Because I'm so not present and such a fucking people pleaser.
Yep.
And like, it can lead you to act like an asshole because
100%.
you're constantly pivoting in terms of your attention and your focus, and it can lead you to do very antisocial, Asperger's-y type things.
I feel you're operating from a place of fear where he's operating from a place of love.
Yes.
And you're both kind of looking at each other right in the eyes, and it's like, it's the yin and yang. Like, it's totally like, yeah. And you're looking at him like, can I be him?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you have that kind of
Exactly.
like, fuck,
Yes.
man. It's like Hank Azaria and when he was a scuba instructor.
Along came Polly.
Yeah, dude, like that's
Ruben, look me in my eyeball.
you not for scuba. That's who I like want to spiritually be. Is
Sure.
fucking just I'm wearing 5 t-shirts at the beach. He's like Speedo, fucking everybody's chick.
Yeah, basically
God,
a
but that's
pasty
so-
on his cock.
I totally understand what you're saying. And I think that when you're in your own head, you're like, you don't even know who to be. And you're almost intimidated by not confidence, but like happiness.
Yeah.
Right? You're kind of like, I'm not going to be like, I would see that guy and be like somehow angry at how happy he is.
Yeah.
But in not angry, like I'm happy for him, but I'm mad that I'm never going to be that happy.
Yes.
You know, like I feel that. And I've seen that with a lot of psychedelic people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where they somehow have achieved that level of like, they're just 2 inches off the ground at all times. And it's just like, fuck, man.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like I used to view happiness and peace of mind to that degree almost as like ignorance. Like, do you not see the fucking world clearly? How can you be this free and easy?
Totally,
are you a
dude.
fucking moron?
What
Open
are you
your eyes,
ignoring?
man.
Yeah.
The world is a disaster. Everything's awful.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Tragedy is coming for you. It's around the corner.
Yep.
Like, who the fuck are you to be happy?
Take your sandals off and put your boots on. It's going to get
Yes.
fucking ugly. I hear you, dude. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And those people literally like, so I want to ask you, your go-to anxiety, is it fear? Is it you're not doing enough? Is it people don't like me? Is it all the above? Is it kind of just like a stew of like self-hatred?
Yeah, I would say, you know, and I don't want to blame it all on Jehovah's Witness stuff, but that, you know, my upbringing, for one, you know, it definitely laid the foundation for the anxiety, for sure, which was, you know, going door to door from the time I was 6 years old and having people quite angry to see me there, slamming doors in my face, running from attack dogs. I had a guy threaten to pull a gun on me when I was 12.
Jesus.
So that kind of laid the groundwork for this feeling, this chronic feeling of I'm a burden, I'm a nuisance, I'm an imposition, nobody wants me around. The sight of me alone elicits anger and frustration.
And you're anticipating rejection.
Exactly.
At all times.
Yes.
I
yes,
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. All right.
So, yeah, that was definitely a running theme for me. And then the other main thing I would say was, in terms of anxiety, was this feeling of a lost adolescence and having to make up for lost time.
Yes.
So, like,
Okay.
I didn't really enter the real world until I was 20 years old. So in a lot of ways, I felt like my life didn't actually start until I was 20 years old. And all these things that my peers outside of the organization were able to experience as teenagers were completely new to me. And I felt like I had to catch up. So it was just like, and this is true of a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses, just drinking, drugs, sex, just cramming as much in as you possibly can just to assimilate yourself to the real world.
And then the whole time you're having fun, you're going like, am I doing enough? Am I taking it all in? And you're almost like narrating yourself out of the moment.
Yeah.
And having that, like I had that quite a bit, like growing up, where it was like, I remember leaving to go see fish for a couple weeks. And right before I left, my dad goes, I guess the lawn will just cut itself. That's how he said goodbye.
Yeah.
And now I'm like on acid 4 states away, like at a fish show. Like all I'm thinking about is like how high the grass is.
Right.
And how like he works so hard, now he's got to go cut the grass too. Like what a horrible kid I am. Meanwhile, the band is playing like the best I've ever seen, and I'm just like not there
Yeah.
because my anxiety's got me like in a different place.
Right.
And I always felt that kind of like, you know, be present, be here. And it's so hard to do sometimes.
Yeah.
So I imagine when you're like constantly thinking like, I'm going to be rejected. I'm going to be this. I'm going to be that.
Sure.
I have to have as much fun as I possibly can.
Yeah. My dad was the master of passive aggression too. Like I grew up in Connecticut as well. And 20 years ago when we had real winters, my dad would be out, and my dad was 52 when I was born.
Okay.
So he would be out shoveling the walk. He'd ask me to do it. I'd put it off. So then I'd hear the and I'd look out the window and see him out there, and he'd like wave to me and then come back in and be like, well, if I drop dead of a heart attack out there, you'll know why. I'm too old to be doing this shit.
Dude. Our dads went to the same fucking school. Connecticut passive aggression.
You had a good run. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, so
you're with Sex Man.
I'm with Sex Man. And in this apartment that it wasn't even his apartment.
Of course not.
He was Airbnb-ing this apartment just for these spiritual journeys that I guess he was doing for a week. He didn't even live in New York. He came in from Denver. So he lives in Denver, and he would come into the city periodically a couple times a year to do these spiritual retreats with people.
I love this.
So
Denver to Brooklyn. How perfect.
So, but I felt pretty much instantly felt like I was in good hands, because again, I could sense this clarity and this real presence that I was envious of. I was like, okay, is this what is actually attainable through doing this?
Yeah.
And so I gave him a little bit of my story prior, through emails or signal messages, so he knew a little bit of my backstory, and then told him a little bit more, and then he was like, he prepped me for the dose, and it was put in a capsule, and I can't even remember. Let me see if I can remember the dosage, the milligram, 200 milligrams, which I don't know is that.
That's
like
2 grams.
That's 2 grams,
right?
Is that
That's a lot.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I if I remember correctly, I think I remember him asking me.
It's 0.2 grams.
It's what?
200 milligrams is 0.2 grams.
0.2 grams. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
I'm not the math guy.
Dude, I'm no math whiz.
I'm like,
either.
oh, you had 2 pounds.
Yeah.
You ate 2 MDMA trees.
I had a whole brick. It took me a while to get through it. I had my steak knife out and
I'm
everything.
amazed I successfully sold drugs in college. Anyway, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, you're like,
0.2.
whatever you think is the right amount, just take it.
So
It's an honor system.
0.2 grams. I'm sure that's,
I remember
tons.
him giving me a choice of like, do you want to take this much, and then if you're not feeling it, you can take more, or do you just kind of want to not risk it and get clobbered with it,
Dive in.
and not tiptoe around it?
You said, let's
and I
do
was
the
like,
uppercut.
If I'm here, let's fucking do it.
Let's do it.
So I know that was I took the option for the highest possible dose that he was willing to give me.
That's amazing.
So pre-dose, so he sent me all these session notes after my session. So pre-dose, 10:15 to 10:45. This is before I've even taken the capsule that is in, he has almost like this little shrine set up with like this incense burning and this candle, and the capsule is in a like a champagne flute, In
a champagne flute.
Yeah. And it's this very, kind of, it's a real display that he has set up here. So I remember already, even before taking it, he has here not being able to feel, cry, emotions starting to arise, choking up, tears flowing, remembering mom's death. And I started to snowball into this whole, it was like I was transported back to being in the hospital when my mom was 17. She died of a brain aneurysm. And I like went back there. This is before I haven't even taken the dose yet.
Wow.
But it was almost just
it's
like
still in the cup.
It's still in the cup, and I'm already like clearly so eager
Ready.
to do this.
You were ready.
That I was already going into it.
Damn, man. Oh.
It was almost like the placebo effect of just being able to visualize it and be like, that's going to be working its way through me in a matter of minutes. So I already was like starting to process things and say things that I had never said before, even though I had already been in 10 years of therapy, to this guy I had never met before, who's not a licensed therapist, not a doctor. And I just started to fucking go.
Yeah.
And then that was for almost a half an hour. And one of the things that I said to him, which I still think about on a daily basis, and forgive me if I'm already going like, I was gonna say if I'm already like going too deep of a dive on this in terms.
Oh my
of
God,
details,
no!
but
Please, this is.
But like one of the things that Jehovah's Witnesses believe, I think I told you, is one of the ways they rope you in is if you are a good, upstanding member of the organization, you will survive Armageddon and you will live forever on a paradise earth. And if you die beforehand, you will be resurrected after Armageddon to live on paradise earth.
Okay.
So that's like a that's one of these kind of enticing things that they use is like, all right, if you stay in this, it was used with me, you know, if you stay in this organization, you'll be reunited with your mom. Because she was an upstanding member of Jehovah's Witnesses. She was like a pillar in the community. So she's going to be resurrected and you can be reunited with her. You know?
Yeah.
And when she died, I remember my aunt, her sister, who I felt very conflicted about my relationship with her growing up, because she was so opposed to the whole Jehovah's Witness thing and would always try to kind of talk my mom out of it and really kind of standing up for me. Like, you're brainwashing this kid. He's not allowed to, he's not allowed to socialize or celebrate holidays. Like, what are you doing to this poor guy?
Yeah, yeah.
And my mom was so tortured by it that I viewed my aunt as a bully my whole life, when in actuality, she was really trying to stand up for me.
Okay.
So when my mom died, I remember my aunt giving me a hug in the waiting room of the ICU, and she leaned into me and she whispered in my ear, she said, you're never going to see her again, right? And I took that as like, what, you cold fucking bitch.
Yeah, really. Yeah,
what do you think I'm doing this for? It's to be able to, but I had this and still, but I haven't taken the dose yet. I'm having this realization.
Yeah.
I was like, that was her way. I didn't realize it at the time, but I genuinely think that was her way of kind of setting me free. Of like, hey, you're free now. You're never going to see her again. Stop holding on to this hope. You can live your own life now. And I had this kind of moment of clarity about this at that moment. And
in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Before taking it.
Yeah.
What do you think that was? Do you think it was literally just like your spirit or your, the inner child or something that was like just ready to lay this stuff out and deal with it, and it's like you didn't even need the pill to do it, and it was like, let's go, let's do this, let's settle, let's put it all out and repack and leave what we don't need.
Yeah.
Damn,
I think I had been so walled off and guarded for so long that, it was almost just like the pendulum swung in the other direction. It was like, let's just demolish all of this. I got nothing to lose. I've been living in misery forever.
Dude, I'm so happy for you that this.
Let's take a fucking sledgehammer to this.
Let's blow it up. Now, can I ask, what was his reaction to all of this? Because, like,
I think he was pretty shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember him saying to me, kicking back, be like, "You haven't even taken the pill yet."
He's going, maybe we do 0.1. He's like, let's just do a half a dose. Damn, amazing. So you're doing, because what a lot of people don't understand with these experiences is you have to do the work, and the work is different for everybody.
Yeah.
And you were already doing the work before what these medicines do, whether it's ayahuasca, mushrooms, MDMA, meditation, float tanks, whatever it may be, therapy. It gets you to the point where you can access and address these things.
Sure.
It pulls our ego, silences that critic, and kind of gets us to the point where we can like really look at the shit we have to deal with. And you were like a million miles ahead. You already did a couple laps before the race even started. That's phenomenal, dude.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, because while you're talking, I'm thinking about my experience, and I'm like, that's really great. Like, that's really, really great that you're you were able to do that before.
I mean, I was shocked myself too.
Must have felt so good.
And it was almost like I remember when he finally was like, "Okay, you ready to what did he call it? Did he call it like the sacrament? He didn't call it like the dose. He had a very kind of ceremonial term for it. Might have been sacrament. But he was like, "Are you ready to take whatever the term he was?" And it kind of dawned on me again. I was like, "Oh yeah, I haven't even taken it yet. Like, what the fuck was that?" It just kind of flooded out of me already. So then when I took it, the first things I started to say, when I don't live the way I know I need to, I become controlling and critical, become who I don't want to be. I'm not abandoning my family when I take care of myself. I'm actually taking the best care of them possible. But I feel guilty, feels like I'm a bad person if I do that. The spiritual bypass of putting others above self, because that's what you're supposed to do, but then you feel resentful and angry. Beware of martyrdom. So these are all just notes. But
that's heavy right there.
Yeah.
That's something I think that anybody with any form of like childhood guilt, you have that, like that what you just said. And if you could read it again, the first sentence of it, I think you said like, you're taking the best care of your family if you're taking care of yourself.
Yeah, you're not abandoning them when you take care of yourself. You're actually taking the best care of them possible.
Oof.
Yeah.
Dude. Heavy.
Which yeah, it's so true, man. It's so antithetical, is that the right word? To my instincts of thinking, I don't count, I don't matter, I need to put others before me. But then you become resentful when you feel like you're abandoning yourself.
Yep.
And I'm starting to, it's funny that like we're talking about this and I'm reading these things now that I'm able to, that I now am incorporating on a daily basis, because I have 4.5 months of complete sobriety now.
Fantastic.
And these are all principles that I'm like applying on a daily basis that I notice slipping through my fingers if I don't stay disciplined about it. So
yes.
And so one of the things I realized is if I don't do these things to care for myself, prayer, meditation, make phone calls, call my sponsor, go to meetings, all these things that I initially viewed as a threat to my own freedom, to time that I spend with my family, I now realize it's an investment in the greater good of everything, And if I do these things to take care of myself, it will allow me to be a more present husband, father, more patient, more understanding, more compassionate. And if I don't, there's times where I wake up and I'm like, I'm not going to pray and meditate. I got to get my son ready for school. I got to pack his lunch, which I do have to do. But I need to prioritize this time for myself. Otherwise, I become a fucking resentful prick.
Yep.
And I see it every time I get complacent and think I don't have to take care of myself.
Yeah.
That it happens.
Yeah. And I think you realizing that is evolution. Like you are evolving from, we think about like our dads or whatever, right? And the generations before them, like nobody ever, can you imagine them having that realization or that conversation with a friend where it's like, I realize if I take care of myself, I'll be a better dad and I'll be a better, like I'm happy to hear you say that, because you're fathering the next generation of men, really. You know what I mean? Like your son's watching you take care of you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And like I have a buddy who I was talking to recently where he brought up his son was scared of going to school in first grade or whatever. And he got down to his level and looked him in the eyes and he goes, buddy, I'm the same way. He goes, I get nervous too. And the kid almost ended up consoling the dad.
Yeah.
And it's this thing of like, wow, like be vulnerable. Mm-hmm. Be like, I need to do this in order to be the best, like, father and husband and person. And nothing is worse than when you know what can make you happy, but you put it off for whatever bullshit reason, and then you end up like more tired, more angry, mad at yourself, so you snap at others, and then you're just like, the fuck, you just like it, and it just goes down, especially with like some substances and food and lack of sleep and all that other shit like that we have to deal with as comics a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard. Like you really got to be vigilant, and you got to make sure that you're like taking those times. So I'm glad that you're like, that's awesome, man. That's so cool.
It's true though. I mean, and like my dad, yeah. And there's a difference between taking care of yourself in a real meaningful, rejuvenating way and filling your time with, you know, like my dad, it's not like he prayed and meditated and he didn't have a friend group, you know. He worked a job that was grueling and punishing and monotonous, and then he came home and he made a beeline for the basement and he would just clean guns for 2 hours before dinner.
Wow.
You know? Like that was his
meditation.
That was his self-care.
Yeah.
Listening to conservative talk radio.
And cleaning guns.
Yeah, and cleaning guns.
At least the guns were clean, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's got their golf.
You don't want to misfire.
When you're trying to take out the enemy.
So about how far into the trip were these realizations? Did he mark the time?
So yes, this was took the dose at 10:48, and this was, and then it says starting to feel the tingles at 11:30. So this wasn't even
minutes,
like this wasn't even like full immersion yet.
No.
And then 11:39, really feeling it now. And then talking about and this is where kind of like he chimed in, saying your wife's greatest happiness is you being happy. The mom issue of making you her last hope for happiness, the pressure of that. Because I don't know if I told you this, but like my siblings all, you know, your worth in the Jehovah's Witness organization is contingent on your whole family being on board and a part of it.
Wow.
And that rarely happens.
So much pressure, dude.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. But anybody with half a brain, they get to a point where they start to question things, they see what else the world offers, and they start to stray from it.
Right.
So that happens a lot of time, and that's why all these families fall apart, and, you know, you're ostracized and shunned, and you're not allowed to communicate with your own family once they leave. So I watch all my siblings, one after another, leave, and then I, by proxy of being the youngest by 14 years, became, you know, the Obi-Wan. I was the only hope.
Last hope.
All this pressure was put on me for my mom's happiness and all her sense of self-worth.
The watchtower was on your shoulders, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez, that's a lot. And did that came out at like
That yeah.
Yeah.
That came out pretty early. This is only about an hour after taking the dose. And then this was an interesting thing. I had a revelation of this. My mom actually being envious of me for achieving the life that she was looking for. You know?
Yep.
Because, you know, I know that she thought she was doing the right thing, but she was looking for a sense of community. She was looking for she grew up alcoholic parents, you know, very walled off, cold,
Sure.
waspy, blue blood, you know, it's a typical, stereotypical upbringing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was looking for a community, a sense of belonging, a sense of family, and unfortunately it was this. And it's so funny too, because man, she was set to go off to nurses training when she met my dad, and then she blew off nurses training to marry my dad, and then shortly after they got married is when Jehovah's Witnesses came to the door. And like I feel so certain that being a nurse would have given her this sense of purpose, given her this sense of like she was caring for people, because she was very nurturing,
and
yes,
empathetic.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Really doing a service.
Yeah, like the consummate mother.
Yes,
Like,
yeah. And instead, that got sidelined, and this filled that void.
Oh man, yeah. And that's for you to think about, and for you to like kind of diagnose in your mind is you know, from a child that wants nothing but the best for their mother.
Sure.
You know, like who doesn't?
Yeah.
That's a lot. And then you feel that if only.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we talked, you were like, if only my mom took a couple mushroom trips, like maybe.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like we think about that, and it's like, it's almost kind of like I can see and the more I talk to people about this stuff and the more we have these conversations, it seems to me like the empathetic evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the, you know, primate to standing up to like, you know, using a phone and driving and all that, but the emotional version of that, where it's like we see what our parents couldn't do.
Yeah.
And they see what their parents couldn't do. And it's like your kids are going to see what you couldn't do. Even though you're doing everything that you could, they're still going to be somehow more emotionally evolved and stuff. And it's wild to, if only. But then if she did take I think about that with my mom all the time. After one of the more recent mushroom trips I took, I called her and I didn't plan on it at all, but I called and I was like, you don't have to be my mom anymore. Like, I just want you to be my friend. Like, you did it.
Yeah.
We're done. Like, take the pressure off. You have no job anymore. Just be cool. Just be friends with me. And she was like, thank you. And I'm like, she goes, I don't think I've ever heard anybody ever say that to me before or whatever. But nothing's changed because I don't think just because I feel it and I say that doesn't mean she has the faculty to be like, let me shut this mother switch off.
Sure.
And turn on the friends switch. I don't think, because similar, they didn't have a big friend group. They didn't have, it was church, it was religion. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like what dad did. You know what I mean? Like follow the path. So as much as we hope maybe our parents could have been different, it's just like, I think they have to be who they are so we could be who we are. So we know what not to be. Did you ever think about that? Where it's like, I see what like not to be in people instead of what to be.
Oh yeah.
It's like a reverse hero.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's interesting.
I'd say
right?
that's been much more of a motivating force in my life is the
What
cautionary
not to be.
tales.
Yeah,
Like,
dude.
oh, don't do that. Definitely don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Who do I want to be? I'm not really sure, but I know it's not that. Yeah.
Amazing. Dude, so let me ask, are you eye mask and music or are you just open-eyed talking?
Yeah, I'm sitting on a couch. He's sitting in a chair diagonally across the room. He's kind of taking notes intermittently. He's kind of encouraging me to, you know, drink water. Like I'm barely functioning as a human being at this point. You know what I mean? Like, like I remember my arms being in like a weird position and looking down and be like, I've never sat like this before, you know? And him being like, you know, let your shoulders drop, relax. And I felt myself really sinking into the couch. But then him having to remind me of just basic human functions, like drink some water. Do you need to go to the bathroom? And being like, yeah, my bladder's going to fucking explode. And be like, go to the bathroom, and standing up and feeling very like a toddler, learning how to walk for the first time.
Pissing a river of diamonds, dude. That's the craziest thing. Like when you're on like these one-on-one things, like at a concert, I'm not looking at like my piss. But if I'm eating mushrooms alone in a dojo or something, and then like you go pee, it's like, oh my God. It's literally a river of gold.
I need to
and
harvest
diamonds.
this.
Yeah, you're like, oh, like angels
Who
are
wants
coming
to buy my piss.
So
looking at myself in the bathroom mirror and being like, whoa, what
that's the worst.
That's always, you know.
Yeah.
And he warned me ahead of time, like, you know.
Yeah.
I know you're gonna look at yourself in the mirror. Just remember everything's okay. You're still the same person that you came in here as.
Yeah.
Yes, you're gonna have some insights, but you know, try not to dwell on your physicality too much.
Wow.
So then let's see. Basically diving into like being expressive, letting go of these inhibitions, demolishing these walls that I had up. That who I chose as a partner, I chose because the opposite of my mom doesn't want me to fall in line, and because that's the thing that was counterintuitive to my upbringing is like seeing that me falling in line and walking the straight and narrow and removing my own identity, my own thoughts and wants and desires helped me function in this society, in this organization.
Yeah.
You know, you have to completely, that's part of the brainwashing, is just like your own
surrender.
Your own identity is erased. And then you get into the real world and you're like, why isn't this working? You know, why is my wife want more from me? I don't, and not having anything to give because you haven't even formed your own identity yet.
Right.
And how heartbreaking that realization can be of like, oh, fuck, I still have to figure out who I am.
You're thinking,
And I'm in my late 30s.
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Late 30s. And you're looking at her, and I'm talking about me. My wife, total, like, I'm so self-sufficient, so driven, so successful. And I'm looking at her like the only thing I could do is make her life worse. Like, I don't have it together enough for her.
Right.
And I'm like intimidated by her togetherness, where like I tried to break up with her and she's like, no, you're not. She's like, what's really going on? And I'm like, I don't know if I'm good enough for you. And I just like, and she's like, dude, shut up. You're great. Whatever. But that whole thing of like, I don't know who I am. I've been paranoid to blow it my whole life. Literally, I felt like the entire weight of the world was on my shoulders, when literally, like, if you said, what world, what weight, I don't even know if I would have been able to tell you or show you. But there was just that impending doom of like, I'm gonna fuck it up.
Yes.
It's the worst. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you see her and she's like, no, be you. Do what you want to do. Like, pursue your career. I'm here to support it. And you're like, what? Like,
which is so weird too, because yes, you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders. You feel like you are the glue that's holding everything together. You can make things, you can manifest things with your thoughts. And you know, if you worry about things enough, you can keep bad things from happening.
Yep.
But you also don't want to not worry about them, because then your complacency will allow those things to happen. And then ultimately finally realizing, and I didn't realize this at the time of this, but now through sobriety and like having more of a spiritual connection, that way of thinking is the ultimate narcissism, really.
Yes.
You know, you think you're being so unselfish, but again, it's martyrdom. It's you're being so self-sacrificing for the good of others, but in actuality, you're putting all this undue pressure on yourself. You think you're the center of the universe, and then to realize, oh, it's kind of really, surrendering this idea of control and finding acceptance in that, and be like, oh, okay, I don't have any control. Yes, that can initially be terrifying, but what a fucking relief.
So relieving. And it's so interesting that you say that too, because I remember one of the things that I had an experience with one of my earlier psychedelic experiences was that it doesn't matter kept like coming back into my, like, it was almost like, you remember like Good Will Hunting at the end when he's like, it's not your fault, son.
Yeah.
It's not your fault, son. He says it over and over and over. It doesn't matter kept like coming up and coming up. And there's a Fish song that called Bug, and one of the chorus, they just keep saying it doesn't matter, and that kept playing over and over in my head, but I kept like sticking with it, and I started to realize that like my type of anxiety, your type of anxiety, not everybody, but some of us, we have this thing where everything matters so much.
Yeah.
Like every little thing is life or death. The weight of the world is on every decision. Every mistake is catastrophic to us. So relief from that is to realize that like literally none of this shit matters. Nothing matters. And to be able to have that, and it's not a nihilistic like nothing matters. It's okay if I fuck up.
Yeah.
It's okay if I have to start over. It's okay if I let someone down or whatever. And like that is such freedom from the shit that we kind of have carried with us, or what was handed to us,
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that some people can't understand that. Those are the folks that tell us like, just relax.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I tried that. That's fucking not that easy to do,
Yeah, sure.
It's wild. It's interesting to like, when you have that realization that it's like, yeah, no, it's okay. Like none of that matters.
Yeah. And I've definitely had that, maybe not so much in this trip, but other psychedelic trips, had this perspective of being part of the universe and being able to zoom out in a way that I wasn't able to before, and realizing my insignificance and taking such tremendous comfort in that.
Yeah.
Be like, the world has existed, the universe has existed for billions of years before me. It may exist for billions of years after I'm gone. Like, my actions ultimately have zero repercussions in the grand scheme of things.
Yep.
And that's why, like, if I watch a space documentary, it's so comforting,
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember talking with Christy Cello about this, It's another reason I love living in New York City is because it's almost like a smaller version of space. There's so much going on. There's millions of people here.
That's such a great analogy.
It minimizes my role in things in a very comforting way.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like an apartment building could be a galaxy all to itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you have no idea what's going on the wall. Like you're sharing a wall with someone who literally maybe just moved to America.
Yes.
And they have 10 children they have to feed, and you're like alone in your apartment. Like, if I fuck up, the world's going to end.
Yeah.
It's so fucking weird, dude.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So you are now hours into this. You're sitting with this.
Yeah.
I also wish that we could get into the fact that, like, I don't think I could ever have this type of session with a male guide.
Yeah.
Mine have always been female. All my therapists have always been female. All my everything. My doctors that I did the ketamine with were female. Like, I just don't know. I don't have it in me to open up to a dude, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure what it is. Was that hard?
I had a bunch of female therapists before this. I had one male. The first male therapist that I had was not a good experience because he would fall asleep on me all the time.
Old man?
Old man, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
and
crazy.
I didn't even have the balls to be like, hey, his name was Kim, be like, hey, Kim, you with me, man? I'll let him. I'd sooner drape a blanket over him and slip his shoes off before I'll tell him it's actually bothering me.
You put on some classical and just tiptoe out.
Kiss him on the forehead and
I love you, Kim.
leave the money on the counter.
There's a Venmo in your inbox, Bubba. Yeah. That's so funny, dude. Wow. Yeah. I had a guy who I thought he was like testing me. Like I get very like confrontational where he's like, so why do you think you do this? And I'm like, I don't fucking know. Like, why are you asking me why I do this? And he's like, dude, because it's part of the therapy. And I'm like, all right. Like, so I was getting like, kind of like, you want to fight? Like, I don't know why. I felt very aggressive and very like, challenged.
Yeah.
Whereas like with all female, I had a hypnotherapist that was this like amazing woman. All my therapists and all my, guides and stuff.
Right.
We're all like kind of more maternal or grandmotherly or whatever. And I felt like, and one of them was like, we should do a session where I have like a male therapist and me. And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Something about being vulnerable maybe, but.
Right. And yeah, to be honest with you, I'm surprised that I was able to open up to this guy so much. And again, when I saw his exchange with this with his girlfriend or this woman, and I was like, all right, he's gonna give me this pill that I'm trusting him that this is MDMA. I don't know what he's actually giving me. I don't know where I am. I don't know if this is his real name. Am I gonna fucking wake up with his balls in my mouth? Like, I don't know what I'm signing up for right now. It's such a leap of faith.
It really, that's so true, and people don't realize that like, that moment when you take it, and now all that shit hits.
Right.
Because and especially how we're kind of predisposed to distrust and fear.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, did I just eat? Like, am I going to wake up with like in a tub of ice with like a kidney missing? And balls in your face.
Totally. And like my household was, vulnerability was not, embraced at all.
No.
If anything, that's like dropping your hands in the boxing ring.
Yeah.
Like you just leave yourself open to get obliterated.
Yep.
And everybody was looking for the cracks.
Yep.
To say some catty fucking offhanded, demeaning, diminishing comment.
And you're just hanging it out there for them to.
Yeah. And
I know. And here you are with this dude
it all. Yeah.
Before even taking it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So how long did the whole, like I haven't done an MDMA guided session before. I've only done ketamine and mushroom guided sessions.
Right.
But the come down, the kind of, the denouement or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How was that? Was that like, was this whole thing like about an 8-hour experience or so? Like 6 hours? Like, did you feel like you were in and out of it quick?
This is, what's funny? Like, it never says when this ends. The last time code here is
11:30 starting to feel the tingles, 11:39 really feeling it now, and then there's just like 2 more pages of notes, feelings about fatherhood, being able to live vicariously through my son, give him the experience that I didn't have, finding all these things to be grateful for about my upbringing that prepared me and gave me a perspective on the way that I live now. Ultimately, finding gratitude for my life and not necessarily wanting to do it all over again,
Wow.
But I think I don't remember walking out of there until like, I want to say like 4:00. So it was at least a 4.5 hour.
He let you go pretty early.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah. And I remember walking out of there and taking the train home
That's bonkers to me.
and like looking around at people on the train, just being like, these people have no idea the fucking.
You just have a halo around you
Yeah.
of like, you're like, I know so much about the universe that they don't.
Yeah.
And you're looking at them and you're seeing through them.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. I was supposed to sleep over where I went and did the mushroom trip, but I came out, I went in and out super fast.
Yeah.
And she's like, I think you're okay, like if you want to take off. And I had like an hour and a half drive, and it was in the fall, and it was like through the upper part of New York, and just the right music came on and the right sunset and all of that. And it was like, that was even a lot. I couldn't imagine a subway, like walking out to like Brooklyn
Right.
and getting on a subway. Dude, I give you so much credit.
And he kind of told me ahead of time, like, be mindful of what it's going to be like when you walk out of here. You're going to feel like you just went to another universe and came back.
Yeah.
You may not want to take the train. And I was just like, no, I'm fine. I'm not having somebody come fucking get me. I didn't just get a colonoscopy. It's okay.
Right.
Like,
you had a mental
I'm a big boy.
colonoscopy.
Yeah, exactly.
You went home and your wife's waiting for you there, and she's like, how'd it go?
Yeah.
Do you break down again? Do you talk to her about it, or?
Yeah, I didn't break down again immediately. I think I was like, I just need I'm still kind of processing things.
Yeah.
And then he sent me these notes the next day, and then I sat her down like that next night and kind of went through everything and just, sobbing, tears streaming down my face,
A good
and
cry.
and again, like that's a like you said, that's another big part of it is anybody can take a fucking dose and get thrown into another stratosphere, but really being able to reflect on it and remember or ruminate upon these revelations that you've had, and then try to really incorporate them into your life in a real meaningful way. That's the work.
Integration.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
the part and that's hard, because that feeling that you had, I'm sure a couple days after, a week after, you have this like expansion. And
Yeah.
you feel, you wake up kind of like, I call it like reverse hangover,
Mhm.
where you're like, you wake up feeling better somehow. Like you're like
Yeah.
a kid again, and you're like open and happy and peaceful, and that shit ends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like someone dings your car or fucking whatever, and you're like, fucking, back to life. That's
Yeah.
why I've always called psychedelics a double-edged butter knife, because it's like you go see, another galaxy, but then you got to come down to this shit one again.
Yeah.
And you're like, fucking, there's such a better place.
Yeah.
It'd be like visiting heaven, and then you're like, I gotta go back to hell. Kind of. But it's like interesting because, and I want to ask you kind of to wrap up, but like the imprint that it left, do you feel that, because you've had experience with medication and therapy and all that other stuff too, do you feel like the lessons you got from the guided MDMA experience, like did it leave an imprint, like a long lasting? Like, do you find that, I know what you said, like now since sobriety and all of that, it almost kind of reinforced some of the stuff you learned, but those moments when you were there on the couch, like, can you easily access those if you think about it?
I was for a while, and then like you were saying, life happens,
Yeah.
Shit happens. Somebody says something that upsets you, or, you have dude, I've spent, just like my dad, I've spent so much of my life getting infuriated by inanimate objects,
Yeah.
punching a hole in the wall because my fucking internet went out,
Yeah.
and just stupid shit that just muddies your perspective on things in terms of the grand scheme of things, that I wish I could say yes, and I don't want to be one of these guys that's like trying to broadcast the wonders of sobriety. But that's the good thing about it, is like, you know, when I did MDMA and I had this wonderful reprieve, and like it lasted for, I'd say 2 weeks before, you know, negativity started creeping back in.
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, I guess I got to do this again, do it again. And then it becomes this point of like, all right, I guess I have to just take psychedelics every time I start to slip back into this negativity and pessimism. And the good thing about sobriety for me is like, you know, the daily reprieve, you know, constantly checking back in and making it a real discipline. Yeah. Because I can't get complacent. Every time I do, things kind of slip through my fingers again. Yeah. And realizing that, you know, when I was growing up, the thing that I pined for more than anything else was freedom, because that's the one thing I didn't have. Yeah. And then to live in the outside world and have ultimate freedom, and then realizing I don't really know what to do with that, because it's like I almost think of myself as like, I don't want it to be, but I feel like my spirit animal is like a German Shepherd. Have you ever had a German Shepherd as a pet? They're a terrible fucking basket case of a dog to have as a pet, because they need something to do. They need a job. They need a discipline. Otherwise, they're a fucking neurotic mess.
Yeah, they're chewing on a chair and freaking out. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, totally.
Yeah. So it's like,
Wow,
I
that's
need
funny.
that service dog vest on at all times,
Yeah.
where I feel like I don't know what to fucking do with myself.
I got it.
And so, being able to, and then realizing all these things that I thought were taking my time in terms of my checklists, my daily checklist in terms of maintaining my sobriety, that I thought were taking my time, it's actually an investment in my freedom, because it allows me to operate in a way where I'm not an asshole,
Right.
and I'm not doing damage control by some prickish thing I said to my wife or son, or some other exchange I had with somebody else, where I'm not anxious or frustrated. And ultimately, this time that I've spent actually buys me more time to really be free. Yeah. If that makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And I think that, like, you know, I appreciate that so much. And it's not realistic to every time you slip back to take psychedelics, all that. It's just not a realistic way to live, unless you're this fucking bi-coastal shaman that just, like, you know.
Right.
But what I've learned, and it was through a ketamine experience, it was just wait. Like, wait an hour, wait a minute, wait a day, wait a week, whatever the length of time is for that particular thing.
Right.
If I get some email where it's like, I initially would be like, oh my God, absolutely, yes. And then I double book myself. And then I'm like, who do I let down? You know, I have to choose between things. I mean, I'm beating myself up and I never enjoy any of it. Yeah. It's just like, let's sleep on it. Like, they'll be there tomorrow to answer, you know? And it's nice to have that kind of, like, that's brand new to me, is not being impulsive. React and regret kind of shit, you know? So.
Absolutely. Yeah. My whole thing is like, and you know, you come up with catchphrases and sayings, and it sounds hokey, but that's another big part of recovery too, is like, is these little things that you can kind of reminisce on, these little sayings, which sound so cliche and hokey at the time, but you're like, all right, these exist for a reason. And one of mine, I don't know if it's mine, but I've heard it said that I use a lot, is respond rather than react, you know? Yeah. Take a minute. Not everything. Yeah. Most things don't need to elicit an initial reaction. You can take a breath, take a beat. Yeah. Give it some fucking thought. Yeah, I know. Don't just have this knee-jerk impulse to react to it. Yep. And I also just want to say that, like, though I could, kind of ruminate on the wonders of sobriety, I certainly don't want to diminish the benefits of psychedelics, because I truly believe if I had not had these psychedelic experiences, I would not even have been open to the idea of sobriety and having a more spiritual aspect of my life. And the whole idea of that coming from what I came from, where God was this punishing, vengeful
presence to live in fear of, being able to redefine that and have it be a comfort, I never would have been able to even get to that place without this. So this, believe it or not, psychedelics opened the portal for me to find sobriety. And I also want to say that there are still people, the jury's still out. There's different camps. There are some people in sobriety that think that, you need to abstain from everything that could be qualified as a drug, or if not a drug, any sort of mind-altering substance.
Yeah.
And there's also people in sobriety that still do psychedelics because they don't believe that that's a problem. It's not a drug. It's not an escape. It allows you to tap back into what you're trying to maintain and cultivate.
Yeah.
And Bill W. himself,
The 13th step, LSD.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
That's why we're not doctors, but we,
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, and I'd love to come. We have so much more. Come back again and let's talk more.
Yeah.
I know. You have to go, but thank you so much. And,
Thank you, man.
Can you please tell everybody where they can find all your stuff and
Yeah.
all
Sure.
of that?
You can find me on Instagram at whodougsmith, and that's my main social media platform that I've been
And
leaning
Jehova
into.
Boy.
And that's so my podcast Jehova Boy, which thanks again for being on there.
Of course, dude.
I dive more into my upbringing as a Jehovah's Witness and have conversations with other people who grew up in strict religious extremist upbringings, and it's been great. And again, like, it's been this thing where, going door to door, Jehovah's Witnesses call that going out in service. They call that service, which you're providing a service that nobody fucking wants.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be woken up at 9 a.m. on a Sunday being told they're going to get nuked in Armageddon. But the outpouring of support and encouragement that I've got from people, a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, from doing this podcast has been like amazing. And
Great.
It's, as you know, doing a podcast is grueling. It can be frustrating. There's moments where you're like, who the fuck is listening to this? What am I doing this for?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm just like, it's like the checkered flag is waving. It's like, all right, keep going. Like,
Dude, totally.
I'm actually providing a service. I know that it's resonating and
Yeah.
and helping people. So
Well,
it's
as
cool.
someone who did your podcast, I left thinking more about my stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's a success too. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
sure.
Like, I could walk away from, it wasn't just us screaming about balls and shit. Like, we actually got into some stuff, and we, even thinking about like how music was banned in our,
Yeah.
collective, our respective upbringings and stuff, just got me thinking about a lot of that. So thank you.
Sure.
And I love it. And you're doing great work. And
Thanks, man.
if one person benefits from this, then it's worth it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, man.
You're the man.